Hi everybody! So when I did my makeup collection and my whole storage setup video, I briefly showed my drawer of single shadows, and the most comments I received were about seeing those single shadows. So here we are. This is a full tour through my single shadows. I thought I would reorganize everything while I did this. So what you see in front of you right now are all of my single shadows that are in the circle pans. So some different shadows are remaining in their respective palettes. Some things I won't be reorganizing. I'm going to mention a couple of things at the beginning, just things that were in that drawer, things that are a little perhaps unique. So I have this palette from Sephora, and I'm not even sure if Sephora still carries single shadows. These are pretty old. I keep it because I quite like the packaging. I can't say the shadows are spectacular, but I really enjoy the packaging. So this is what it looks like. These are the shadows I have. It's like a gray, a peach, and like a copper kind of color. There's a key there so you can pop the shadows out pretty easily, and it has a nice mirror. So I've been hanging on to this one just really, like I said, for the packaging. The shadows are large circles, so they're difficult to rearrange, and I usually just kind of keep them as is. I also keep my little palette of Inglot shadows in the same collection. So this I bought because it was a collaboration with Crystal Clear Makeup. This was the Beauty Chameleon palette. So it's just a bunch of the Inglot single shadows all kind of put together. And I keep them together occasionally, like if I'm duping the vibes for something, I will reach for this palette as well, just like with any of the shadows that I do have if I'm doing like duping the vibes or something like that. But in this case, I wanted to keep them in their respective palettes for right now because I don't have anything specific in mind that I'm trying to create. I know I want to create a winter palette. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I have one more set of single shadows, and these are buxom shadows. So for a while, this was all of the rage. There was buxom shadows, and I chose my 6. I vaguely remember some drama with Sephora giving out a coupon code so that you could get a like $50 worth of product or something. I can't even remember what the scenario is around the drama at this time. It was so long ago. I think it might have had something to do with shipping, with orders being late, whatever it was. I remember using that code for these shadows, and then I really didn't use them very much. So I just swatched a couple of them there so you can get an idea of what they look like. Of course, the duochrome shade being the most interesting and the most used. The silver is actually really nice. The orange sparkly shade, really not great, but that's silver. I have to remember to use that more. So I'm not going to swatch every single one of these shadows because some of them are going to be probably pretty boring, but I thought that I would swatch at least some of them to give you an idea of like what some of these look like. So I want to use these a little bit more, these buxom shadows. So that's the story behind those. I find the packaging a little difficult to work with, so I just kind of keep it in its own little packaging container and don't really mess around with things too much. So I have a couple of like Depotted, Viseart, like a couple Urban Decay shadows, some Stila. I'll get to those, but really what I want to create right now is some sort of winter palette. So I have a bunch of different Z palettes. I have a bunch of palettes in like assorted sizes and shapes, and I have some really large Z palettes. I have some really small Z palettes. Some of them are dirty, aka makeup dust. I kind of like it. It looks like art to me, and it reminds me of all the different shadows that have lived here in the past. I'm not quite sure what I want to do first. I have some of these Z palettes that have, you know, the clear cover so I can directly see in them, and then some palettes I have that have a mirror, that have more opaque packaging. Like take this one from M Cosmetics. You can see it's pretty worn because I do really enjoy this palette in particular, and I tend to use this one a lot because it's a great size. Again, you can see where I had like accidents with some of the shadows that were in here before, but I think it all tells a story. Kind of reminds me of like when you get a used book in a bookstore, and it has like notes in it, and you can kind of see like the story that somebody else lived with that book. It's kind of like what it reminds me of in here. So I've had some accidents with shadows and just rearranging some things, but I really like the size of this one as well. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do here. The first shadow I think I want to play with though is this shadow, which is like a pressed glitter, and it is from Pinky Rose, and I'm not sure what the name is. Some of them don't have names, unfortunately, on the back, but this is a pressed glitter shadow. Sorry, my hands are dirty because makeup and trying to like clean the makeup and put the makeup out without dropping things. I have such a bad habit of dropping things, so I've got colorful makeup dust kind of all over me. But this is that glitter shade, this pressed glitter. It's got a little bit of a tacky kind of base. And this is sort of the initial inspiration for my holiday palette. So this is going to be like the first shadow that I'm going to put. And I think I'm just going to use that Majestic Z palette that I showed at the beginning. And I'm just going to kind of work around that since it's going to be a lot of shadows. I have a lot of shadows here. When I did my inventory, I had about approximately 200. So I know I want to start, like I said, with that shade, and I'm thinking we're going to go with some like purples maybe. I'm feeling something like a little bit cooler, leaning towards some interesting shadows and things that I want to play with more because I've kind of neglected my single shadows a little bit. So I have this one right here from M Cosmetics. So this one is called Silver Lining. And that is what it looks like swatched next to that sparkly shade. I think that will go pretty well together. I will, of course, show what the palette looks like when it's all assembled. I just want to go through the shadows first. So I have another purple sort of pressed glitter shade from Pinky Rose, and that's what they look like, kind of all swatched together. I'm kind of hoping that this will come together in some sort of fashion. I probably won't go in depth with every single little palette creation. Just want to like show some swatches of the things that I come up with because I thought maybe people might be interested in seeing something like that. I could be totally wrong. I think we need like dark shadows as well. So there we have another Pinky Rose shadow. And that shadow is Paradise Island, also from M Cosmetics. This is Yacht Life from Colored Rain, which is a matte blue shadow, and I just used this one recently with my 1989 festive makeup look. This is actually a matte MAC eyeshadow, so it's just a white shade, and this particular one is called Gesso. I'm going to put this one in the palette as well. This is Checkmate from ColourPop, so it's a mint sort of green. This is a light lilac color. This is a matte shade. This is Cupcake Frosting, also from M Cosmetics. This beautiful purple shade with this reflective glitter is from Pinky Rose. And I think this would be a really cool addition to my sort of wintry palette. So I haven't swatched all of the shadows that are in the palette, but that's what it looks like. Okay, so then in order to show the whole palette, I have to zoom out. This is what it's looking like so far, just to give you an idea of like what my wintry theme is looking like coming together. I like to zoom in, but it's a little difficult to show everything in frame. So I think I want a pink to go with some of those shades. This pink caught my eye first. This is Free to Be from MAC. Okay, so I put the matte, this is what I swatched it on my finger there. So I put the matte white from MAC in there, but I also have Crystal Avalanche, which has that little bit of like that reflect in there, and I just feel like the Crystal Avalanche, the name is perfect. It has that little bit of shimmer. I feel like that's just an appropriate shade for this sort of like wintry palette. I definitely feel like some sort of pink shimmer shade. This is like a rose gold shade. This is Come and Get It from ColourPop, so I swatched it right here. It's just that like standard kind of duochrome shade. So I'm about 2 shadows short for this palette. This is what it looks like right now. This is a lot of fun coming up with these different color stories. This is a Sydney Grace shadow called Moss. So that's what that looks like, and I swatched it right there to give you an idea. I think that looks kind of cool. So I have this Pinky Rose shadow, which is like this dark brown, which is just a little bit broken. So I'm trying to be careful with it, but I think that's the perfect final touch for my winter inspired palette. So that is the first thing that I've created with a bunch of different shadows, and I'm really happy with that. I think that that's a beautiful color story. However, I still have so many more to go, and I am very covered in glitter, and I do not mind that at all. I'm going to use the M Cosmetics palette as my next palette, this palette here, because it has the mirror, and I feel like doing more like a green inspired, something green. So I'm thinking about, okay, we're gonna go with this shadow first of all. Sorry if it's a little blurry, although I do think sometimes like some of the interesting reflex in the shadows show up a little bit better when it's a little bit more blurry. This is Gold Earth from Sydney Grace, and that is what that shadow looks like swatched. So I have all of the Colored Rain Vivid Pigments. So this is Lemon Drop, which is a bright matte yellow, and I think what I'm going to go for here is more of like a springy yellow, green, gold, something that would be a little bit more brighter, something to kind of lift my spirits for those cold months. I'm trying to be careful and delicate with some of these shadows. I also have Lemon Sorbet from Sydney Grace, which I just used in the 1989 makeup look as well, but this, I dropped it, and these shadows are so fragile, so I'm definitely being careful with this one. I really don't know why it's, like you can see my fingers so clearly, but you can't see the shadow. So that is what it looks like right now with the 2 Sydney Grace shadows, the green and the gold Lemon Sorbet, and was it Gold Earth, I think? And then the Colored Rain. This is another Pinky Rose. The Pinky Rose ones don't have names on them. I don't know if I already mentioned that, so it's a little frustrating because I don't know what they are called, but I do have a lot of them. I'll swatch the Colored Rain one as well. So this is kind of like my springy palette vibes. This is Motif from MAC, and I kept going back to that one, so I'm gonna throw that in there as well. So it's got a little bit more of that pink reflect to it, so kind of swatched everything right there. I want to throw this one in as well. This is another Pinky Rose shadow, and it is this beautiful orange, so I definitely want to add that one into the mix. This is an old Makeup Geek shadow. This is called Sin City. So it has a little bit of a more shimmer to it. So that is what that shadow looks like. Again, it will not focus. Envy from Makeup Geek, I think would make a nice addition. And I'm going to put Paper Tiger from ColourPop there as well. So this is currently what this sort of spring inspired palette looks like. This is Level Up, also from Colored Rain. So I thought that this nice vibrant green. So I have this sort of shimmery kind of pink shade that I feel like could kind of be a little bit of a flower inspiration. And then I wanted a deeper shade, so this is, I believe this might be another Makeup Geek shade. It's got a little bit of that sparkle to it, but it's a deep brown color. So I'll show you what the completed sort of springy palette looks like. Looks like this. I'm putting together some fun new color stories here. I'm trying to not knock anything onto the floor. I feel like putting together just a really simple set of neutral shades in this Makeup Geek palette. So it's kind of similar to the M Cosmetics one. Like, it has a mirror and it's got 9 places for shadows. So I'm just going to do something really, really basic, I think. So I've got a Makeup Geek shadow called Mirage. Already has a little bit of pan in it. This is an Anastasia eyeshadow called Caramel. So I'm gonna put that in there as well. Like I said, I just really want like a very simple, neutral kind of palette. This is Bamboo from MAC. So put that one in there. I do want to have some shimmer too though. This is Peach Sorbet from Anastasia. I feel like this was once a kind of popular shadow. This is a really light shimmery kind of shade. Like I said, I just want to do neutrals, so it's not going to be anything too dramatic or bold. Bronze from MAC, so I think that works really well. Mystery, also from MAC. I feel like a lot of my neutral shadows are MAC, and I definitely need a gold. Actually, I'm going to put this shadow in there. So swatched next to the other ones are Cinnamon. This is from M Cosmetics. So this is a really beautiful reflective shadow. Such a beautiful sheen. It's what it looks like so far. One of my absolute favorite shadows ever from MAC is Brown Script. So I'm going to put that one in there. And then I want like a dark bronzy kind of shade. Not quite as dark as I was thinking, but this is Comfort from Anastasia. I feel like it hits the same kind of notes. So those are the shadows. So those are some of those shimmery shades swatched next to each other. And this is what the palette looks like. Just a really simple neutral palette. I just feel like that'll be something that'll be easy to grab, to use. I have another large Z palette next, and I'm going to fill that one up with some more shadows, of course. That's what we're doing here. I'm not quite sure if there's a single shadow or something I want to build around a palette. Okay, so I've been at this for a while and my camera battery can't handle it. So I went ahead and put together some more fun little color combinations. So the top row of these are all Colored Rain Vivid Pigments, and then there's assortment of other shadows. Basically, the brands of single shadows I have are Colored Rain, Anastasia, ColourPop, M Cosmetics, Luxie Beauty, Cleona Cosmetics, MAC, and Pinky Rose. I think there might be a couple Divina as well. Besides what I've already shown you. I just thought this would be easier so you can still see like every single thing I have. So I just put together some little quads as well in these little Makeup Geek quad palettes, just in various different themes, just as a fun way to kind of play with the different shadows. And like this is like a green sort of theme. This is just what I like to do, is to put these things together in different orders and like kind of try and inspire myself with different color stories. This one is in a MAC palette, and this is a MAC shadow that broke, but I've got a few, you know, different shades in here just in ways to make them look more appealing to me, or just to challenge myself with different color combinations. So maybe some of this might, you know, interest you or inspire you in some way, perhaps. Here is a purple theme one. Thought that was a fun little palette. In this palette here, we have some more of those other things that I had mentioned. These are Viseart shadows. They were given to me by Jordan Harris. This is a Urban Decay depotted shadow from the Pulp Fiction. This is Shell Shock from the Vice 2. This is a Shu Uemura single shadow, and then I just filled in the remaining gaps with some other shadows to kind of like stay on theme. And I put together some shadows in these ColourPop quads as well, like that it's different, that it's laid out across, so I get to like visualize things in a different way. So that was sort of like a fiery red sort of theme, and then I have another green theme, and then finally I have this other, kind of reminds me a little bit of like Valentine's Day-y with like the pink. It's like very shadowy. But yet, there's more. I still have so much more to go through and to organize. So the next palette I think I will look at here is one that has a couple of shadows in it already. This is a large Z palette from Sephora. This is a Clionadh Cosmetics Aftershock shadow. I have to be very careful with it because it's already broke on me, so I'm being very cautious with that. And then the other three are Stila shadows, actually. So that is what the Clionadh one looks like there. You can see it's very, very beautiful. But I just kind of had all of these here, so I thought that I might just pop in a few sort of similar looking shadows around it. This shadow, I believe, is a NYX shadow. I have like 2 or 3 NYX shadows. Siren of the Sea from Luxie Beauty. So this is some more shadows in there. I'm going to swatch some of them. So that's what some of those shadows look like swatched. That very sparkly green shade is the Siren of the Sea from Luxie Beauty. So this is what we have remaining. I'm actually going to use, I think, some of my MAC palettes because they have those dividers in there. So this is just what I hastily put together there. Just a bunch of different shadows. I'll swatch some more of them to give you an idea of like what these kind of shadows look like. I just don't have the battery life to be able to go through and swatch every single shadow that I own. But I hope that seeing them is at least kind of interesting, because there's quite a few here to show, and I thought this was kind of an interesting color story. So this is a lot of greens and blues with a couple of golds and like some of those like dirty kind of brown shades. I have yet another one of those 15 pan palettes. So again, I'm going to try and see what I can come up with here. I think I'm going to go off of this, make that sort of the focus. There we go. There is another palette, and I'll swatch some of those shadows as well. So there are some more of these shadows swatched from that palette. This is a very, again, kind of wintry dark blue palette. I kind of like the way that these turned out. Sometimes the best color combinations that I come up with are things that I don't really spend a whole lot of time on. Like, I really like the way that those two MAC palettes ended up turning out. Now I have another one of those Makeup Geek mirrored palettes, the 9-pan ones, so I think we're gonna see what we can come up with for this one just off the fly as well. So we have a pinky rose shadow. I'm gonna put that one in there. Sometimes I just hold them up and see what they look like. So like this is Olive Quartz from M Cosmetics, and I think that will be nice in that palette. An old Makeup Geek in Casino. And like sometimes I don't even really like to plan it out. I just like to do it. I believe that's another pinky rose one. So there we go. Kind of a more green theme, but I'm not sure if I want to throw some other things in here. This is Burnt Orange Matte from Anastasia, so I'm going to put that in there, and that's what we got so far. It's kind of cool. Kind of like that. Let's put that in there. I believe this is a Makeup Geek shadow as well, or NYX one. Wait, I think this might be a NYX shadow, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that might be Fireball, I want to say. Like I said, I thought I had like 3 NYX shadows, and I think that's what that one might be, because I thought the Makeup Geek ones I had were labeled. It's too similar. This is Bitten from Makeup Geek. Kind of like the way that those look together. Nope. This is Crisscross from ColourPop. I like that. I wanted like a darker shadow right there though. Pinky Rose? No. This is Morgana from Cleona, and I think that will work perfectly right there. So we've got sort of like an autumnal sort of color story going on right there. And that's what we've got going on there. I feel like that's a very autumnal, appropriate color story for that. Next, I have this medium sort of Z palette, and I think we're just gonna go right again the same thing. I keep picking up these sort of this like reflective purpley shades, so I think we're gonna just see what we can come up with those. I think we can just do, we're just gonna do 2. And this is Stay Golden from ColourPop. So these are Pinky Rose. These 2 are Pinky Rose. Like that's one of the pressed glitter ones. This is Masquerade from Makeup Geek, which is like an old foiled shadow. So a lot of these are like, this is Lilac from Pinky Rose. So I'm gonna put that one in there. Expensive Pink from MAC. I think that's kind of cool. We'll do 5 and 5 and see how that works. Idle Eyes. Do I want a blue? Nope. Another Pinky Rose one, we'll put that in there. This is Coppering. I kind of like that one. This is Unbothered by Colored Rain. And then just one like unusual color. Maybe we will go with that Pinky Rose. There we go. A little bit different. So my arms, my hands, my fingers, I'm just covered in glitter. So that is some swatches of this fun color story. Some fun things happening there with this. Try and get that to stay up a little bit. But yeah, I thought this is kind of fun. And I have another Z palette here. This is a smaller one. No, you know what? I'm because I see more things that I want to put into my big Tarte palette than I want to put into the smaller ones. So this is what used to hold my Vivid Rain, my Color Rain Vivid Pigments. So we're gonna put some more green things in here. So that I can see a bunch of, put that yellow. So this is what it looks like right now. You can see where I had like the vivid pigments in there. It's Penny Metal from ABH. Once more. This is kind of a large palette, so I started wanting to do winter themes, and I've definitely gone for more of the spring theme as I've gone through, but it could also just be the kind of shadows that I have as well. I'm not sure why I seem to have more I have more shadows than I have room for, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I definitely had all of these in one particular space before. This is a very simple, mostly purple and mostly pinky rain or pinky rose. Wow, pinky rose shadows there. And that is swatches of those shadows. Okay, so I had to add an extra row to this palette because I ran out of space, and I still need to find space for 5 more shadows. It's funny how that happens. Again, I added an extra almost row to what could fit in the bottom of this palette. I really don't know what happened. It's probably also because it's very late and my brain is not fully functioning. And then totally sticking out, I added one more to where it could fit in this palette in here. And those are all of my single shadows. That is what they all look like right now. I hope this was kind of interesting, or maybe just satisfied your curiosity, since you really couldn't tell what I had from before. So I hope, like I said, this was at least a little bit interesting. And I tried to go through and show kind of as much as I can realistically, but this is just really what I like to do every now and then, is just go through and reorganize them and see what I have there, put things in different color combinations and assortments and kind of see what I can come up with. So I'll definitely be playing with these a lot more over the coming months. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Make sure to let me know if you have any questions, any specific questions about these shadows. I don't know if many or if all of them are currently available because they are on the older side. I'd love to know what kind of single shadows you like though. What have you been using recently? What have you ordered recently? Or what are you lusting over? Like, what's on your wish list? I'd love to know. Thank you so much, like I said, for watching, and I hope we get a chance to chat soon. Bye for now.